Welcome, everyone. Today, we're focusing on one of the most overlooked but extremely important transition document in special education, the Summary of Performance, commonly called SOP. As new special education teachers, you'll spend a lot of time learning how to write IEPs, goals, accommodations, and transition plans. But eventually, every student exits special education services, and when that happens, the SOP becomes the final professional document you provide to help support that student's future. Think of the SOP as the student's bridge from high school into adulthood. This document follows the student into college, employment, vocational training, or independent living settings. It helps outside agencies understand the student's strengths, needs, and supports without needing the entire IEP history. Today's goal is to help you understand not only how to complete the SOP accurately, but also why it matters for students' outcome. The Summary of Performance is a required document under IDEA for students who are exiting special education services due to graduation with a standard diploma or aging out of services. The SOP summarizes the student's academic achievement and functional performance. In simpler terms, it answers the question, what does this student need to be successful after leaving high school? One important thing new teachers sometimes misunderstand is this. The SOP is not another IEP. The IEP is designed to support the student while they are in school. The SOP is designed to support the student after school. This document may be reviewed by disability support offices at colleges, vocational rehabilitation counselors, employers, or training programs. That means the information must be clear, professional, data-based, and understandable to someone outside your school division. The SOP is completed during the student's final year of high school. Timing matters because the information should reflect the student's most current functioning levels and transition readiness. Why is this document so important? Because once a student leaves high school, the protection and supports under IDEA change dramatically. Colleges and employers do not automatically provide accommodations the same way K through 12 schools do. The SOP helps students advocate for themselves by documenting their disability-related needs, their strengths, effective accommodations, successful supports. This is one of the first major transition documents where we begin shifting responsibility from the school team to the student. As a real-world reminder, many students will lose access to supports after graduation if the documentation is weak, vague, or incomplete. This is why quality matters. Let's look at the major sections typically included in the SOP. First is background information. This includes disability classification, educational history, and graduation information. Next are post-secondary goals. These should align directly with the transition goals already identified in the student's IEP. Then comes the actual summary of performance section. This includes academic performance, cognitive functioning, functional skills, communication abilities, social or behavioral functioning, independent living skills if appropriate. Another critical section is recommendations. This is where you identify accommodations, supports, or strategies that may help the student succeed after high school. Finally, student input is extremely important. The student should have a voice in describing their strengths, preferences, interests, and future goals. A major compliance point: everything included in the SOP should connect back to real data from the IEP process, not opinions or assumptions. Now let's talk about how to actually write a strong SOP. The best SOPs are built from strong IEPs. That means you should already have high quality PLAF statements, transition assessments, progress monitoring data, accommodation documentation, post-secondary goals. One mistake new teachers often make is writing vague statements like, "The student benefits from support." That statement tells us almost nothing. Instead, be specific. The student successfully completed grade level assignments when provided with chunked instructions, visual organizers, and extended time. Notice how that statement explains what support was needed, why it helped, what outcomes occurred. Another important reminder is to avoid educational jargon whenever possible. Someone outside the school system should be able to understand the document immediately. This slide is probably the most important one in the entire presentation. The SOP reflects the overall quality of your IEP process. If the IEP is weak, vague, or disconnected, the SOP will also be weak. Strong IEPs create strong transition outcomes. As special education teachers, your role goes beyond compliance. You are helping students prepare for adulthood, independence, employment, higher education, and self-advocacy. This means collaborating with families, working with related service providers, including student voice, collecting meaningful data, focusing on real-life readiness. Sometimes teachers view transition paperwork as one more thing to complete. But in reality, this may be one of the last opportunities you have to advocate for the student before they leave the K-12 system. That perspective changes everything. Let's summarize the biggest takeaway from today. First, the SOP is legally required under IDEA for eligible students exiting special education. Second, the SOP is directly connected to the IEP process, especially PLAFs, transition planning, and accommodations. Third, every statement in the SOP should be data-based and clearly explained. Fourth, the accommodations should not simply be listed. They should be justified through evidence showing why they are necessary and effective. And finally, student voice matters. Students should participate in discussing their strengths, goals, and future needs. Here is the real-world question you should always ask yourself while writing. If a college disability office or employer reads this document, will they understand how to support this student successfully? If the answer is yes, then you're likely writing a strong SOP. Now let's reflect on the professional side of this work. Think about this question. Why is the SOP important beyond compliance requirements? The strongest special education teachers understand that compliance is the minimum expectation. The real goal is improving long-term student outcomes. Another important reflection. What challenges might you face when writing an SOP? New teachers often struggle with lack of data, weak transition goals, time management, limited student participation, writing specific recommendations. And finally, how could poor alignment between the IEP and SOP negatively impact a student's future? If accommodations are not clearly documented, a student may struggle to access support services after graduation. That can affect college success, employment stability, and independent living outcomes. To close today's session, let's review 3 quick questions. First, what is the main purpose of the summary of performance? Second, name 2 types of information that must be included in the SOP. Third, why is it important to include specific accommodations in the SOP? These questions help reinforce the key idea of today's professional development. The SOP is not simply an exit document. It is a transition support tool designed to help students succeed after high school. Thank you for your participating in today's professional development session on the summary of performance. As new special education teachers, remember, the quality of your transition planning can directly impact a student's future opportunities. Strong IEPs lead to strong SOPs. Strong SOPs support stronger adult outcomes. Continue building your skills in transition planning, data collection, collaboration, and student-centered practices. And most importantly, remember that every document you complete represents a real student preparing for life beyond your classroom. Thank you and goodbye.